What Andrea was talking about earlier, it's a mixed month. And part of the awkwardness of it is because we've got a lot of Aquarian aspects that are brand new because we have Pluto in Aquarius that's brand new.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the Astrology Hub podcast, where we feature the wisdom and guidance of some of the world's best astrologers so that you can use the cosmic information to help you live your best life. I'm your host, Amanda Poole-Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and today we are going to be focusing on the month ahead, the month of February 2024. And I absolutely love this episode, and I really think you are going to love it too. These two incredible women, Clarissa Dolphin and Andrea Michelle, are going to take you on an adventure through the energies of February. So we're going to walk chronologically through February and just give you insights on the different transits that are going to be happening. Make sure you have your journal or your calendar or something handy to write down the dates. And what you're going to do is you're going to find out why we're calling this month awkward, why it's actually important for you to embrace the somewhat awkward energies. Just like a teenager moving through their awkward phase, we're all collectively moving through a very awkward phase. But there's an importance in seizing the opportunities that really present themselves through this. So, especially the ones that speak directly to your heart. So, you're going to find out why we're saying that here in this episode very shortly. We're also going to walk through transits like Mercury conjunct Pluto, Venus square the nodes, Mars conjunct Pluto, Venus conjunct Pluto, Chiron conjunct the North Node, Venus Mars conjunction, and February 28th, which apparently is a huge day astrologically. So you're going to want to make sure and stay till the end so you can find out why February 28th is such an important astrological day. I love how Clarissa, who is a harmonic astrologer, and Andrea Michelle, who's a sky astrologer with a little bit more of an evolutionary bent, I love how their two energies and perspectives really blend in this episode to give you a holistic picture of the month and lots of amazing, tangible, practical tools for working with the different energies in a very productive way. Both of these women are going to be inner circle astrologer guides for our expand group. Clarissa is going to be February, so she's coming up really soon. And Andrea Michelle will be a teacher guide for the expand level of inner circle later this year. So if you want to jump into the membership and learn from incredible astrologers like Clarissa and Andrea Michelle, the links are in the show notes. So you can go check that out. Finally, we, Astrology Hub, are going to be at the Conscious Life Expo in February 9th through 12th. We're going to have a booth there. There's going to be a lot of other astrologers there as well, like Rick Levine, Gemini Brett, Kaylin Castell. The Leo King is going to be doing his DJing and hosting dance parties on Friday and Saturday nights. There's going to be a lot of amazing workshops. I'm actually going to be doing a talk on Saturday at 11. We are going to do some sort of meet and greet with the people from our community who are coming to the event. So if you're in the area, or if you're interested in taking a little trip, please come and see us at the Conscious Life Expo. We would love to meet you in person. I absolutely adore meeting people from our community. So if you can make the trip, we'd love to meet you. And if you do decide to come, make sure that you send us an email, or if you're in our inner circle, make sure that you reach out to us in our private groups so that we know you're coming and we can let you know what time and place for meeting up is going to happen. And, to check that out, click the link in the show notes or just go. I think it's at astrologyhub.com/conscious life. So you can go there and check it out. And now is the time to sit back, relax, have your little journal, your pen and paper handy, take some notes, and learn all about the month ahead. Can't wait to dive in. I am so excited to dive into this astrology for February. I have heard rumors that it's really big astrology. So I'm so happy that both of you are here to explore that together. And let's start here. Andrea, what would you say is the overarching theme for the month? What can we kind of anchor into?
The call, working with the call for the evolutionary intention of awkward.
Awkward. Why awkward? That's a very interesting word, and I know you used it very intentionally.
I did, yes. Well, I have to say, we're in Aquarius season, right? So Aquarius is just kind of like the free funk, the weird, the doesn't really fit in, but it's all in the service of breaking out of things that constrain us. And there's an awkwardness to it. There's also something about the quincunx, and I'm going to share more when we get to Chiron. But there's something that I loved about Clarissa that she did in a prior weekly weather in the summer, where she talked about the quincunx as being kind of like the awkward teenager, which I thought was perfection. Because evolutionarily speaking, there are a number of people who claim that we are, as a species, at the awkward teenage stage of our evolution. And again, this is going to come into play when we talk about Chiron a little bit later.
So the evolutionary invitation of awkward, which basically what is that teenage stage for? It's because we're sort of shedding some of as children, we kind of just take on our environment, like whatever our parents think, whatever the culture's saying, whatever our teachers are saying. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people. And so then in the teenage phase, we're kind of, like, who am I? What do I think apart from my parents or apart from my friends? And, who am I? And that phase absolutely is awkward, right?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of bravado and the teenager too. We think we have all the answers. We think we know what's coming. And it's a place where we need to foster humility.
Mm.
So right after the trine of Leo, we have the sesquisquare aspect, which is meant to curtail any excesses. And then we have the quincunx, which is the adjustment period to what is it like if we were to just root in humility as the foundation. And it's awkward for the ego to be humble.
Let's start to walk through the astrology of the months. And I'd love to start with you, Clarissa. I know that there's a transit on February 5th that you want to highlight, Mercury conjunct Pluto. So let's go into that one.
Absolutely. So Mercury conjunct Pluto, from a harmonic astrology perspective, whenever you have Mercury, Pluto together, that is absolute unabated truth. So it's it's complete candor. It's very direct. There is absolutely no room for lies, because whenever Pluto gets activated, it brings up everything. So Pluto actually, I think, feels kind of frenetic. I think it could feel a little bit sometimes like Uranus, because it brings up absolutely everything from the depths into the mainframe. So Mercury, Pluto conjunction February 5th, in terms of like harmonic stuff going on, it's a 21 dominant harmonic, and a general theme for like the whole month across every aspect, the new moons, all these ingresses, is the 13th harmonic. And so in transit, the 13th harmonic brings up a whole bunch of interesting issues. Lifestyle. So we were talking about this teenage awkward phase. Mercury conjunct Pluto, February 5th, is going to bring out, I'd say, a lot of candid conversations, a lot of kind of raw truths, especially about how you're living and how you're unwilling to compromise about your life, your lifestyle, your purpose. 13th harmonic is really a complex harmonic, because it deals with issues of fate. It deals with issues of conformity. It does not conform. So I think that's part of the awkwardness that Andrea was referring to as well. We're all entering this epoch in February where conformity, even the things that we thought we were, like, even to our own routines, the truth comes out. It's not there anymore. I also want to just piggyback on Andrea when she was talking about the quincunx, because I'm like obsessed with it. I've been doing research on it for years. And part of that teenageism is the pain of growth And the pain of growth, the type of growth where you are actively growing, because the quincunx is an action aspect. It's very much like the square. It is moving. It's not stationary. But the thing about the quincunx is it doesn't know where it's going to land. It's in the process. And so that's what's awkward about it, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
I was also thinking about the comment about the bravado about teenagers who, as they're kind of asserting their individuality, right? They might get, kind of big headed about that. And it seems like two things could be happening there. One, it's a little bit of a protection mechanism because they don't want to be talked out of it. It's like, no, this is really important. I need to be this person, right? And then also forgetting where that individual impulse comes from and thinking that it's me, it's mine, like I'm doing this versus like, I'm, part of the divine plan. And yes, my individual expression is important, but it's not really coming from me, right?
Yes, totally.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next one, which Andrea, I'd love for you to cover, which is Venus squaring the nodal axis. What's that going to bring up for us?
Yes. So Venus is going to be at 17 degrees of Capricorn, squaring the Aries Libra axis at 17 and change Aries and Libra, of course. She's the dispositor or the envoy of Libra, which is the South Node. Now, the South Node energies, no matter what sign they're in, are always kind of the lowest common denominator of that sign energy because it's what we know. It's what we're looking to release. It's kind of where our safeties are, but it's not necessarily the most elevated aspects of that sign energy. So all of her movements through the zodiac and her meetups with the planets and the stars are tinged with that South Node energy, right? So she's looking to grab onto safety at every cost, like over going into doing something new, which is where the North Node and Mars wants to lead us in, right? So during this whole transit of the nodes, which is July 17th of last year through January 11th of 2025, this is kind of where how Venus will tend to act unless we make it more conscious. So she's 1 degree from the inception degree where she was at the Capricorn cycle back in 2020. And as the planet of the relationship, can we draw on the purity of that seed moment from the past? Because Capricorn has a lot to do with history. Where can we use this Venus and Capricorn energy to self-substantiate and come back to the purity of recognizing how far I've come, what's still to go, because Capricorn realizes it's for the long haul, right? And where can I remain in my sovereignty, but also very caring? Because Capricorn is very much about being in charge, but being in charge can lean into stern and making sure everything is right and not wrong. And we have to make sure we bring the caring aspect of Cancer, its polarity, in so that we're making sure that it's not dry, it's infused with our innate heart's care. So go ahead.
Well, when Venus is squaring the nodes, does our own Venus play a part in the story of how we're interpreting this? Or is this really just a global perspective of what Venus squaring the nodes does?
That's a great question. Because these nodes are affecting us all, it will affect us more if we have our nodal axis natally in Aries and Libra. It'll affect planets that we have in Capricorn. It really depends on the sensitivity of the individual. Each person is going to be different. Each person is going to have a different relationship with these transits. So it's hard to say, but there's a real accentuation here of that critical point of the square asking what still needs to be released. And we can do that no matter where our Venus is or what planets we have in Capricorn. The balsamic moon is also going to hit Ceres on the way out. And Ceres is very much about where we're still attached. to suffering or to holding on to what we want to be rather than what simply is.
Okay. And so you're saying that this is activated in our relationship arena,
Yes.
that we're being asked to consider what do we want to carry with us from the past and what is ready to be released. And then we're being asked to do this in a way that is caring, not,
Yes.
not like, oh, this is the way it is, or this is the way it's going to be, but like actually having a caring approach to the way that we're handling that question in our life.
Exactly. And we might have to cut out some relationships and foster new ones that are more in line with who we are actually becoming. But maintain that caring, not just kind of gaslighting or ghosting friends anymore. It's just kind of like how do we maintain this level, this sense of sometimes we have to let go of what we most have, what we've relied on in order to really accentuate where we need to go and know that from our heart's truth.
Okay. That sounds like a big one. And what's the time frame that we're actually dealing with this? I mean, you mentioned July 17th of 2023, January 11th of 2025, but that's not where,
No, that's just the nose. That's the node, the transit.
Right.
Nose. So this is going to happen on February 6th, but anytime like building up around there within a couple of degrees on either side. And again, it really depends on the level of sensitivity. If someone has a strong Venus in terms of like they're a nodal dispositor or conjunct their moon or as their ascendant ruler, it's going to be probably more amplified than people who don't have it as accentuated.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Let's go to Mars conjunct Pluto. Clarissa is going to cover this on February 13th. What do we need to know about this?
Well, this is a load of radness, but this is also hard work, right? Because whenever Mars-Pluto is involved in an aspect from the harmonic lens, Mars-Pluto is the type of where it literally means compulsive action in terms of if you're watching energy. And so what that looks like on the ground is often like backbreaking labor. It's a type of labor where it's like, okay, I'm working 10 hours a day for 3 months. The project's done, then you crash. So this is like when, I mean, we got like our feet on the ground, hustling. And it's particularly a hustle situation because it's the fifth harmonic. So fifth harmonic, fifth harmonic can feel a little light because it is basically the creative principle of the universe or the play principle of the universe. Like fifth harmonic is like when kids play with blocks and it's just like, ooh, we're just gonna like mess around here. And then some huge fortuitous event or some type of knowledge comes from just messing around. In transit, I find fifth harmonic interesting, right? Because I've seen it come up a lot with like conjecture, things like conspiracy theories, particularly on a mercurial bend. But when we're talking about Mars-Pluto, fifth harmonic in transit, that's when the speculative ventures, the more fun things, you start to create blood, sweat, and tears around that. Like, so focus on that. And I think this is what Andrea was talking about earlier. It's a mixed month. And part of the awkwardness of it is because we've got a lot of Aquarian aspects that are brand new because we have Pluto in Aquarius that's brand new. That entered in January 20th, which is an epochal shift. Yes, it's societal. It happens every few hundred years, right? Like it last started like the end of the 1700s, right? So we've got this epochal shift that nobody's used to. But we've also got these like personal shifts where it's like suddenly like dreams, concepts, things that maybe you've wanted to do that weren't part of reality. Now they're reality. And now the forces of our solar system, like with this Mars-Pluto situation on the 13th of February, it's like, get your feet on the ground, get moving on this crazy stuff. That's awkward, right? And crazy beautiful. Like, I'm sure it's like wonderful, but it doesn't, like what I'm trying to say is that we've got this like all these forces where it's like these things simultaneously feel unnatural and scary and weird. And there is no time to not do them anymore. The time is now, period.
Oof. You know, I love when I start to hear echoes from astrologers, like in different contexts, but saying the same thing and really driving a point home. And this, the way you just said that with enthusiasm, the time is now. It's not time to be sitting on the sidelines and kind of contemplating what is next. It's time to start doing. And so it sounds like a lot of the things, like what you just said, a lot of the things we've been dreaming about, wanting to bring into reality are going to start coming into reality. And we actually need to actually start taking action, which, because it's new and none of us have done this before, it might feel awkward and weird.
5 trillion%. And I also want to kind of piggyback on what you just said, Amanda, and what Andrea said earlier from, the harmonic lens, what Aquarius is like as like a zodiac sign, as like an energy function.
Yeah.
It is like, it's hard to explain because it's more like the Capricorn function in harmonic astrology is about playing a role, wearing a costume. Like, this is the role you must play to blah, blah, blah. Then we get into Aquarian energy, and it becomes about the group system. Like, Aquarian energy from the harmonic perspective is the type of thing where it's like, it understands the function of every being in a system. So ecosystems, social ecosystems, bacterial ecosystems as well, right? Because a lot of like the Aquarian, particularly the Pluto and Aquarius energy, like discovered scientific things like photosynthesis, the first actual, what's that? It's like, I totally forgot, but this came up with COVID. What is that term where you get inoculated from diseases? Sorry?
Herd immunity?
It's not, it's an actual thing. Like, God, this is such a simple term. I feel so ridiculous not remembering it. Like the vaccines. Oh. So the first vaccine was Pluto and Aquarius, right? Like all these like weird things where you're starting to relate to the ecosystem differently. Whatever that looks like, social, all the ecosystems. So yeah.
Okay, so it's weird and individual, and yet it understands how the weird individuality fits into the whole ecosystem.
Yes.
Yes, how it all works together. Yes. Wonderful. Okay. So we have this, what would you say? I mean, it sounds to me, if we're talking about why this, what this Mars-Pluto is inviting, what would you say? Like, yeah, it sounds like it's going to be busy and like maybe even overwhelming, but why?
Busy and overwhelming, but why? For invention, number one, right? Because it's a fifth harmonic dominant energy. Also, we got the 13 again. We also have a 29 times 5, which is creative ambassadorial energy. So it's like, basically, I think I love this. I love this. Why? Because this why is the type of thing where it's like, hey, throw your hat in the fence, start working with people. Like you start to get like the pressure of collaboration and just throwing it all in. That's the why. It's basically, don't think about, just do it now and find the right people and find different perspectives and start doing, things that are only imaginary before.
I love it. Okay. Very helpful. All right. Let's go to, and actually that's going to be right after the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles that we'll be at with a booth with 15,000 people exploring like mind expanding, consciousness expanding ideas. So that's really interesting to think about. Okay. And I hope some of you are going to be at that because it'll be really, really fun for us to be mind expanding together. All right, so let's go to February 17th, where we have Venus conjunct Pluto. So now we have Venus in the mix of this new Pluto and Aquarius energy. Clarissa, what's that going to feel like, or what's that going to be eliciting from us?
And that's going to be a little bit loco, all right? Because so Venus Pluto from a harmonic context, literally the energy is compulsive attraction. So you can't control, Venus Pluto is really funny in natal harmonic analysis to me, because it's the type of thing where it's like, if you have a mild ice cream addiction and you're Venus Pluto, you're going to eat like 6 pints at once. There is no kind of I can control my impulse for attraction, you're right. Other things I notice in natal analysis with Venus Pluto people, if they like you, they just bring you in immediately, they consume you. So that's why I was saying the loco thing, it's like this consumption thing. Gotta have it now, need it now, give it to me now, right? So that's kind of just what Venus Pluto is, but then it's another fifth harmonic energy. And we also have the 29 times 5 again, which is really interesting because they're the same energies as the Mars conjunct Pluto, right? So this is the type of thing where I think on a personal level, when we get to kind of this mid-month February, it's going to hurt to not follow your compulsions, to not follow, so if you're trying to be too restrictive, I can't do this for, whatever reason, or trying to be too logical, logic isn't going to help you mid-month February. Obviously there are things addiction. I don't want people to harm themselves or anything like that. But at the end of the day, when we've got the fifth harmonic and the 29 times 5 lit up in all these energies, it looks actually constructive to go on impulse and it's a very passion desire. That's really fortuitous right now.
Okay. Wow. That's also helpful. Okay. So let's talk now about Chiron conjunct the North Node on February 19th. Andrea, Michelle, what are we considering with this?
Oh, this is a big one. I could do a whole thing just on this, but okay. So it's going to be felt by people who are sensitive way before. I mean, when the nodes entered Aries, Libra axis with the North Node in Aries, it started to activate Eris and Chiron. They've been in there for a while and will continue to be. So, but the heat will be turned up even more once early February starts, when Chiron is within orb, and it lasts through the entire month, I would say. Okay. So the archetype of the wounded healer, the shaman, one could say, is probably the most important or active archetype in the human species right now, with the discovery of Chiron in 1977. With the state of our world, it's like calling all healers. But the thing is, with Chiron, the essence of our healing lies in the recognition that no one is going to heal us. We need to do it ourselves. And with Chiron and Aries, there's a very strong helplessness vibe that can be there. We can see how much we have outsourced our power by, Pluto and Capricorn, by outside systems, outside authority, because of this very, very deep sense of, I can't do it. I'm just one person. I don't have the availability or the choice to do this. But these are just belief systems, literally. So when I wanted to make a note of anybody who has planets mid-cardinal signs is going to feel this, again, depending on the level of sensitivity. So again, as something that Clarissa had mentioned about the archetype of the quincunx as being this adolescent, and that's kind of where we are at as a species. What she also said about we're growing, but we don't know how or why. It's like our bodies come online. a deeper intelligence that's always here. Like, we don't have to think about breathing. We don't have to think about digesting our food. These are autonomic things that the intelligence of our body, which is tapped into the intelligence of the universe, are doing. So it's humbling to remember that we are not as in control as we like to think we are. The ego wants to be in control. But Chiron is, in essence, represents the split from our essence that brings forward the ego. So the sooner we allow ourselves to recognize that we are at this awkward stage in our evolution, maybe we can really choose more self-kindness, more self-love, more humility, more self-honesty, because these are what build our capacity to keep our hearts open to suffering and forge a deep empathy. And it starts within. That's what Chiron asks of us, regardless of whatever sign or house Chiron is in for us natally. It's always an invitation to self-mastery and to self-initiate ourselves, which takes a lot of courage, which takes a lot of willingness to be awkward. It's like that quincunx, because I want to show you something. I don't know if you can see. This is Chiron, right? This is the glyph for Chiron. This is the glyph for the quincunx. Okay? So Chiron is that awkward stage in humanity's growth that we're supposed to be here. We're not supposed to have all the answers. We're not supposed to know what we're doing. We are all in this uniquely together. That's Aquarius. So one of the things that I'm hopeful for with Pluto and Aquarius is that more and more communities will come together to do their deep work, right? And this Chiron on the North Node is really calling forth people who are ready and available to heed the call of their own soul to address the deepest levels of our wounding, to alchemize its medicine. And we have to do it for ourselves, but we don't have to do it alone.
Picture this. You step into the new year not just with a list of resolutions, but with a pocket full of insights from the stars that help you make choices about timing, direction, and focus. Put together by an all-star cast of our best astrologers, our free 2024 Astrology Blueprint is more than predictions. It's your personal cosmic playbook for the whole year. Think of it as a chat with the universe, a way to catch those sparks of clarity that light up your journey. It's about syncing up with the stars and making the most of every moment. And here's to a year of tapping into cosmic wisdom and personal power. Let's make 2024 a year to remember together. Get your free copy at astrologyhub.com/2024guide. I love that you showed the glyph of Chiron, because when you first put it up on the screen, it looked to me like a person bent over with their head down and their legs like this. And I was like, oh, that's so awkward. I'm trying to imagine doing that position. I was like, that is so awkward. So now I have this whole new orientation with Chiron and this awkwardness and the quincunx and it all kind of coming together. I love I have chills all over my body, Andrea and Michelle. Just this Chiron calling forth all of us to embrace the opportunity we have to turn our woundedness into the gifts that does bring humanity together in our shared compassion for each other and understanding that we all have these wounds. We all have these core places within us. And oh, wow, that just sounds amazing. Like, and tell us again how long this is active. Like, where is the sweet spot for this transit?
The sweet spot is the 19th, but it starts the beginning of the month and leads to the whole month. I think the whole month of February is really just this clarion call for, those of us who've known, gosh, I really want to do something different. My job is falling apart. My marriage is falling apart. And I really am scared, but I want to kind of keep that together. But deeper within us is this, wow, it means I'm going to have to start fresh, but my soul, my heart is telling me now is the time to make that move. Like Clarissa was saying, there's no time like the present to make this stuff happen. There's no waiting anymore. The time is now. And you have other people doing that. So how beautiful that we all get to be awkward and not know what the heck we're doing together.
Right? But yes, and part of it is just sort of sharing our awkwardness.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was really cute, Andrea and Michelle, that your little drawing was like on a torn up envelope. Like, I mean, this is great. Like, this is perfect. Like you were like, oh no, it needs to be on the perfect piece of paper with the perfect, it was like, no, actually here, I just drew this and I want you to see it. And so it's kind of like embracing our own awkwardness, sharing in awkward moments that frees everyone else to be awkward.
Yeah.
This is amazing to see so many transits layered on top of each other that are all singing a very similar tune for us to catch, Okay, I see why you say we could spend the whole time on that. Let's go to Venus-Mars conjunction, February 21st to the 22nd. I know both of you want to talk about this, so let's talk about this one.
Clarissa, you want to start?
Sure. So Venus Mars energy harmonically is tangible beauty. So anything beautiful that you can touch, period, or use with your hands, that's what Venus Mars is. So that could be makeup, clothes, textiles, jewelry, also food. So chefs, people who are in the agrarian world who work like with the land, florists, all that kind of stuff, interior design. But like when we're talking about a collective thing, Venus, Mars, and just like so personal collective, right? Like people, everybody who's watching this forecast, Venus, Mars is going to bring tangibility to what you're doing. Right. So now it's not just like conceptual or whatever. It's like, let's actually make this a physical thing that I can touch and use. This is interesting, though, because what I'm noticing with these transits that we've been talking about, particularly the one, so Mars conjunct Pluto starting February 13th, Venus conjunct Pluto on the 17th. And I think that was the same day as the Chiron Aries situation, and now we're in the 21st. So within this 8-day period, we've got a lot of 29 energy, and 29th harmonic is improvement through adoption of perspectives outside of what you were raised with, outside of your nuclear core, your comfort zone, etc. And once again, the 5th harmonic is active on these trends. So all these like trends in the 8th day or in the past 8 days here are all 29 and 5s. Like, so what that means is I think this is a very big time for exploration. I think this is like a huge time for healing rifts. I think that this is going to be a time where, co-creation actually produces real legitimate things. Another thing that I want to say here is that the Venus conjunct Mars on the 21st of February is also a 17th harmonic emphasis, which is the empath. It is empathy in the empath context. So it's more sensitive. It picks up on everybody else. But there's like kind of generally in this week, with the Chiron thing, I wanted to add to what Andrea was saying about Chiron, piggybacking on it from my research on Chiron. Chiron is also just like this 9 lives energy where you're totally indestructible. According to the top research subjects from my Chiron research, it's the type of thing where it's like, this person should have died like 10 times. Like we had like this rock star who had like 4 heart attacks by the time he was 40 and still playing till he was 60 on stage, like hairband, metal rock. So Chiron is also, and particularly in these 8 days, starting February 13th to now, is badassery, you guys. Like the type of thing where it's like, going into, these fifth harmonic creative realms and, all these new embarkations, whether or not you're ready, probably, well, it depends, right? But there is that, like, you're not going to lose energy. You know what I mean? Like, just go crazy a little bit. You'll land on your feet. That's a better way to say it. Chiron, you'll land on your feet. Like, yeah, so that's Venus conjunct Mars.
Well, and it might be a little messy and not totally pretty, but but you'll land on your feet, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like Chiron, like whenever I hear the wounded healer, there's kind of like a kind of thing about it where it's like, I'm wounded and I'm so it like I think Chiron is, it's like it no matter what hits it, it still gets up and walks again. Like so there's like that element like in the wounded healer that I don't think really kind of necessarily represents the totality of Chiron in terms of how it performs. It's like, yeah, you'll land on your feet for sure. You'll be okay. But the weirdness about you, the hurtness thing about you, the thing that you keep getting kind of screwed with around is like your superpower, and you keep, it only makes you stronger.
I love that. The resilience of that wounded healer and the ability to take the wounds and alchemize them into a superpower. That's pretty strong. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I know, Andrea and Michelle, you wanted to talk about this transit as well.
Yeah. So I love what Clarissa had brought in around this. And I'm, as a sky astrologer, I look at when I'm preparing for anything, whether it's a personal chart or a forecast, I like to look at where the planets are in the sky. And so this Venus-Mars conjunction is also an occultation, which means they are not only close by they're not just together by longitude, they are also close in the sky by latitude. So their influence on one another is that much stronger. Okay. So both are morning stars, but whereas Venus is in her descent, Mars is ascending. Whereas Venus is moving farther from Earth, Mars is moving closer. Venus is dimming, Mars is brightening. Venus is slowly increasing in speed, Mars is slowly decreasing. So they are not at all on the same page archetypally. So I want to dispel any notions that Venus and Mars, whenever they come together, is love and roses and, romance. It's not. It depends on where they are, where our collective feminine Venus and our collective masculine Mars are in their greater cycle. So the fact that they're in Aquarius, we're coming up against fixed ideas of what equality, equity are, and what creative collaboration looks like that might not have any bearing on truth or what's actually possible. True Aquarian communities will be populated with individuated individuals who aren't triggered by disagreements, but rather are fed by differences to find and nurture creativity through differentiation. This is a very important thing. The difference between different and differentiated. Where can you be you and I be me, and we're not a threat to each other? That only happens, in my experience and my belief, is in the human heart, which is the only place where we can maintain paradox, right? So this is a mature iteration of the quincunx, right? Because Cancer, the sign of the self, identity, the ego structure, is in a quincunx to Aquarius. So my safety is not dependent upon you. It's within me. It's fostered within me when I'm a healthy, individuating person. So you can be you and I can be me. I also believe that this Pluto and Aquarius transit will undermine our conventional idea that your reality has to be my reality. Because this Venus-Mars conjunction with the moon opposing it, the nearly full moon, is shining a spotlight on this and asking us, are we ready for that to become a reality. Quantum physics has shown that it's the observer that dictates how the particle reacts in the field of potentiality. So that there is some idea that there's one objective reality that we all have to get in line with. That's also going to crumble even further with Pluto and Aquarius, right? Can I live by my truth? You live by yours. And there's awkwardness in that. It's like standing next to somebody. It's like being paired, like a speed dating thing. And the person that you come up with is completely not your type, but you're there for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, and you have to talk to this person. Well, where can you might end up being really good friends with this person. You're not really like compatible for dating or romance, but wow, they offer something that I know in my heart is good for me to know about me. They're bringing something into the equation and fulfilling something in my life that is useful, that I can learn from, and vice versa. That's kind of the energy for me, too, of this Venus-Mars conjunction.
Woo. Oh my goodness, ladies. This is amazing how you two are layering different aspects of these aspects and helping us get a really well-rounded understanding of how these could be showing up in our lives, and the invitation that we have to accept the call, which I think Andrea and Michelle in the earlier part of the show, you talked about the call too. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of calls here, but they're very similar in their resonance. So it's great. Okay. I know we have our final culminating day of February 28th, which apparently, according to our pre-conversation, there's a lot of things happening on February 28th. So Clarissa, why don't we start with what you're seeing on that day?
Sure. Well, we've got like a lot of critical. First of all, we're shifting into Piscean energy on this day, like in a major way with all the mundane transits. So we've got Mercury conjunct the Sun in Pisces. We've also got Mercury conjunct Saturn in Pisces, and Sun conjunct Saturn on this day. And so like Mercury Saturn is very analytical. Like it is analysis period. So it's like crunching numbers, all that research, investigations. Then we've got Mercury Sun, and Mercury Sun is really about like talking directly and simply, right? Like my friends make fun of me for using words like effluvium. Like what is that, right? Like Sun Mercury does not do that. Sun Mercury just like, really kind of connects, like here's the essence of what we're saying here. Then we've also got that Sun Saturn. Sun Saturn's like the principal. They're like principal at schools. Like you just show up. So it's like a different kind of energy. I feel like, once we get to the end of February, even though it's Piscean, it gets a little more heady and more about communication. What am I going to say? I think the Piscean element would probably add this sensation of dissolution. Oh my God. Like we've also got a lot of lunar node with Pluto midpoints. So the Sun conjunct Pluto, lunar north node midpoint. Mercury conjunct Pluto, lunar north node midpoint. So I feel like the second and third week of February, just get out on the court, hustle, talk to people, start, doing what the individuated thing that Andrea said, I think is the most beautiful thing that I've ever heard. And, it also encapsulates the 29th energy too, where you're like ambassadorial, etc. But then when we get to February 28th, it's going to be more about communicating, period.
Okay. So we have a little bit of shift in the tenor towards the end of the week, towards the end of the month. Andrea and Michelle, what would you contribute or what would you like to add to that?
Oh, that was good. I don't know what I have, but I noticed that I was looking at the sky. I have a software that shows where Mercury and Saturn were in the sky around that time. So Mercury is going to be directly on the celestial equator. So one of the things that I consider with the celestial equator is it's the Earth's equator projected in space. It's the Earth's midriff. You could see it as the solar plexus of the Earth, which is where in our solar plexus and our root, we connect with the Earth. So when we consider planets in relationship by where they are in terms of the celestial equator, it's a whole different ballgame than the ecliptic. But I'll just focus on the celestial equator right now. So planets in relationship via the celestial equator tend to be felt more viscerally. There's more there's more of an emotional, personalized component to them. With Saturn and Mercury there with the sun, Mercury being right on the celestial equator, it's an opportunity for us to find balance because Mercury is the hermaphrodite too. Mercury is the most powerful planet in my estimation. All the transpersonal planets are sexy, but nothing sexier to me than Mercury because Mercury can go anywhere. Mercury can be anyone. Mercury is also the trickster. So we have to really get to know Mercury very well because he can deceive us as well as tell us the truth. Now, Pisces is the sign of ultimate truth. He's there with the sun, with Saturn. So how do we bridge ultimate truth through our bodies into reality and birth a structure of reality that is balanced, Mercury on the celestial equator, between my own needs and the needs of others to build a solid foundation that might not come to fruition for a while. It's Pisces. It's still nebulous. It's mutable, but still the foundation is there. And with the sun, with the energy of the sun, this is a potential. This is also Mercury at a superior conjunction furthest from Earth. So this is a potential in waiting that all the work that we're doing, allowing ourselves to be awkward, allowing ourselves ourselves off the hook this whole month, just practice, just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Do you know what you're doing? Good. Let's not know together. We are actually building the potential to live more deeply from our truth, embodied, than we know. And like Clarissa was saying, we're growing. We don't even have to be able to track how we're growing to learn to trust the natural process of my soul wanting to come more deeply through and as me. I just have to make the room, just keep surrendering, get out of the way and allow myself to be awkward.
And I just want to say really quickly to Andrea's amazing points again, this February 28th, this is when we're like developing a lexicon for all that we've been through, like in February, where we're actually figuring out how to talk about it. What's the language? Like, what words are we using? Like, what even is this? So it's kind of like that communication piece that's we're all awkward most of February. Now we're talking about it. What's this? What's happening now?
Right. Well, and that part that you brought in about following our passions and maybe it not making logical sense, but going anyways. So being able to actually verbalize some of the impulse and the things that have happened will be important. Amazing. You two are so awesome. I love this. I would want this to continue forever. It's so great. For those of you who are interested in having a community and a container and a space to explore these kinds of concepts, number one, Clarissa is going to be our next Inner Circle Astrologer Guide for the Expand group of membership. So Clarissa will be in and teaching. We'll be doing a new and full moon forecast. Plus, she'll be holding us in the Expand community, teaching a mastery class. What's your mastery class on, Clarissa?
Using harmonics for new and full moons.
Ooh, amazing. Okay, great. So if this harmonic thing has intrigued you, this will be really cool too. And then in our Grow group, we will be working with these themes around individuality. Andrea and Michelle brought in so many concepts to consider, especially when we're thinking about Aquarius as it's like, well, it's individual, but it's community. How does that go together? And there's a lot of keys there. So amazing. Both of the links to those two levels of membership are in the description of this episode. And Andrea Michelle is also one of our recommended astrologers for readings. So is Clarissa. So you can go to our reading page if you're like, ooh, I want to know what this astrologer has to say about me and my chart and how these things are showing up in my own life. There's nothing like getting a reading. It's an amazing way to get those deep insights. So you can check out the link to our astrologer page and learn more there too. Okay, everybody. Well, have a wonderful February. It's been amazing to be here with you, Andrea, Michelle, and Clarissa. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your perspectives and your unique ways of practicing astrology with this community. We're so grateful for you. And have an incredible month, everyone. Leave comments in the chat if there's things that you are reflecting on and insights that you're having or questions. Both Clarissa and Andrea and Michelle are great at answering the questions in the comments. So we'd love to hear from you. Take care, everybody, and have a wonderful month. Thank you for being a part of our community and for making astrology a part of your life. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye.